Perfect. So to change the nav bar to one that we have already built, so kind of a default, one of the default ones, like I said, you click on the 3 Timbits at the top right, manage nav bars. And from here, you're going to see a list of nav bars that have been made. I've started making some subject-specific ones. So if you happen to be a science, math, or geography teacher, there's extra tools in here. So there's actually a grouping for science tools with like the Desmos calculator and interactive periodic table and things like that. And same with math. So just some subject-specific tools. And again, if there's things that you're like, wow, everybody should, here's a site or here's a tool everybody should use, fire it to me and I can always add that in as well. And then basically all I'm doing is I'm choosing what navigation bar I want by clicking the drop down, choose it. Choose it and sorry, Mr. Cool, you threw me off there. You can see what I'm seeing? Is it that the issue, or it's just you're telling me that you can drag that to?
The orange scroll bar on top just comes up as the hashes, so it's obscuring the page a little bit.
I got lots of hands, but I can't hear you. Or is that just me? Can everybody else hear them?
How about now? Okay. The orange sharing bar, it has the hashes.
See why. Sorry, guys, just give me a second.
So if you can drag that orange sharing bar over to another screen so that we can see all what's on the screen. Because we see like boxes that are boxed out when you're playing with the options.
Because I'm not getting any sound from anybody.
Oh.
Switch audio. We just have to go from there.
You just don't want to hear us.
Okay. The default is the old one that we have, but like I said, you can play with some different ones and see what's there. And that's good and fine. It gives you kind of something to go by that we've built already, but really this is about customizing things on your own. So to make your own nav bar, same idea. You're going to click here, but now we're going to customize it. And by default, it's going to ask you to work with a copy of the navigation bar. And that's because the one that we're accessing right now is a master. This is something that everybody in the system can access. And obviously, we don't want you changing things that everybody else is using. So once I click that, I come into here and I can give it an independent name. That's going to be, so this is going to reside just within your course. So training nav bar. And then it's just as simple as adding and removing links. So if there's something that you don't want, you just click the X and it goes away. If you want to add something new, we just add the link. And we can scroll down until you find something that you wanted to add. So there's the science tools. So maybe I'm teaching science, so I'm going to add science tools, even though there's already a nav bar built. And I can drag and drop, so I can rearrange where I want them to be on the nav bar. And then when that is done, save and close. I need to make sure that nav bar is active, okay? That's the one that's set. So sometimes you make that change, you make the new nav bar, you go back and you're like, well, nothing's different. You've forgotten to toggle it on here. So click that, click apply. And then when you go back to your home, I can see that the science tools are there. Okay. The other thing when you're in here, so I'm going to go into edit nav bar again. And add links. I think I can get to it from here. So you can also create a custom link. So maybe there's something there that you're like, stupid Sherwin and O'Connor, like they're just sitting around not doing anything. They didn't make a link to something I wanted. So if it's something that you want, that you can create a custom one, and then you simply just give it a name. It's linking to something, obviously, so the website or wherever it's going to. Generally speaking, you want it to open in a new window or tab, so it's not actually replacing D2L. It opens a new tab, so you just kind of leave the default, give it a description, and then you can upload a picture as the icon. And then that's going to become an option for you to add to your navigation bar. So you have that power of doing that as well. Groupings, if you click custom group, I believe you guys have I know you guys have the power to make a grouping. Just not sure if it's right there. The same idea that you can make groups together so you can start compiling different links into one category so that you're not filling up the entire nav bar. So that's basically the idea between navbar customization, making it work for you and things that you think the students are going to use and benefit from. And this is really about things that they're going to be accessing on a daily basis. That's kind of how I see the navbar, or where they're in D2L that you want them to quickly be able to get from point to point. Homepage. So these are all the different widgets. So each category that we see here, or each little square, is considered to be a widget. Exact same process, right? There's some default ones there that you can get to through manage, or I can edit it. Now, if this edit button isn't here, if you just have manage, you can you're probably going to get, you have to make a copy of it off the get-go. So manage home pages. Actually, I'll do it this way. Manage home page, you would be down to the default. And you need to make a copy of it. So same idea as the nav bar. We need to make a copy so that we're not changing the master. And I've already done that here. This was an old history course at one point. Okay, and same idea, you can give it a unique name if you want. You can change the layout. So by default, we've kind of gone with the 3 panels, 2 split at the top and 1 at the bottom, but you have different layout options that you can utilize. And then the widgets are exactly the same. If I want to get rid of something, learning links, I don't think anybody's really using much anymore. So I get rid of that. Okay, teacher, I can get rid of. And then if I want to add widgets in, it's the same idea. I can just go and I can select a widget that's already been made. So I'm going to add in the activity feed. Add that, save and close. So the widgets are kind of like launch points on your page, not necessarily something that you want them toggling between. It's more of a informational thing or something they might visit kind of here and there, or obviously first things that you want them to see. And I didn't turn on that homepage. So I did exactly what I told you guys you needed to do. I edited the homepage, but I didn't actually make that one active. Okay, I'll get into the editing part here in just a second. So the widget's a little bit different than, okay, yeah. So again, to add the widget, we just go down, edit this home page. And now you're going to add a widget and you're going to choose the appropriate one. So if you know what the name is, you can search for it. Really, there's 4 pages worth. It's really 1 or 4. The CR is called credit recovery. We use that for something different. So when you're searching, if you know the name, the easiest is just to search for it up here. So Ms. Waldock was asking about WebEx. So there is a WebEx meeting link. This will just take them to the main WebEx site. Okay, so that takes them to kprdsb.webex.com, which sometimes isn't a bad thing because the login for the students is a little bit easier from there, but then they need to go and find your personal room after that. Okay. Okay, so the edit page part, sorry. So when you come down to here, the bottom of your home page, you're not going to see, if you're using just the default, if you haven't made a copy yet, you'll just probably see manage and display. So you click on manage. And it probably is coming to this grade 9-12 default. We click the drop down and we make a copy of it. That copy is going to show up in blue, so you can see I've got a copy here, and then that copy I can click on to edit. And I can change that name to whatever I want, or you can just leave it the copy. That doesn't matter. It doesn't display anywhere. Now, the one thing with the widgets is that they are a little bit different in that you can't create a widget within that home page layout. So instead, we need to go to Edit Course. And the one thing I will also say right here, everything that's in this nav bar up here, that's part of D2L, everything that's here can always be found as well in Edit Course. Okay. One of the big things is that you're the only one that can see that. So if there are tools that you think the students can access or should be able to access, like grades, the grades tool isn't actually part of the default nav bar. Whereas as more people are using grades in the grade book, we found that that was something that needed to be included because the students can use that to quickly check and see how they did on assignments and things like that. Anyway, so I'm in Edit Course, and like I said, everything that's on the nav bar, essentially I can link to from here as well. If I want to make a custom widget, so this would be if you're using WebEx and you want a widget for your personal room. So the kids can just click that and they automatically go right to your personal room or to your Google Meet or really anything like that. And you don't want to do it as a link in the nav bar. You can click on widgets and it's the exact same. You can create a widget. Give it a name. The description won't be seen. It's just an identifier. And in the content, oh, it's going to ask me. And in the content area, this is what I'm going to put in where I'm going to see the widget on the screen. So you'll notice it's the usual kind of the HTML editor properties here. So I can put in an image, I can put in links, I can put in whatever, and that's going to be seen by the students. You can also put in release conditions. So the only time you might do this is if you had certain groups that you wanted to access a widget, or for you guys, not as much. We use it quite a bit because there's some things we only want teachers to see versus students to see, things like that. But you can put in a release condition, basically saying that if they've accomplished something or are part of a certain group or whatever, that they can then the widget will appear. I wouldn't be too worried about that for probably what you will be using it as a teacher. And then once you've built it and it's done, you can save and close it. And then you would be able to access it in your homepage, to add it to your actual homepage. But the content area is the big one. That's where you're actually putting whatever you want to appear on that widget. Oh, sorry, go back there for 2 seconds just because I saw Miss Waldock asking about her personal room WebEx. So with that WebEx widget, you can either make one right from scratch, Miss Waldock, or same idea as doing a home page. You can make a copy of it. So there's WebEx meetings. You can make a copy of any widget. That you can then edit. So you notice I have the brush on this one. That means that I have, and the pencil. So I have the ability to edit this one. And then in the content area, where this WebEx meeting link is, I would just replace that link with the link to my personal room. And then you already have the icon there and the instructions and all that stuff. So. Okay, so that's really the customization end of things. It's basically what can the students access here. The only other thing that I'll quickly show you is that I just turned on templates. So I'm in my coursework now. I want to create a new HTML document. And you notice there's a drop down here. So I'm just going to call this lesson 1. There's now a drop down. I haven't tested this as a teacher. I just did this the other day, so hopefully this is going to work. Oh, it's not going to work. It's not linked up. Sorry. I must have to change some rights somewhere. In the near future, there are going to be drop-down templates you can use here that just kind of give you a different layout. So you get away from just that plain white background. They're okay. They're kind of better than nothing, I guess, but they're not super spectacular. But I'll post something in the D2L update once I get that completely functional. I got it working on my super account, but I didn't have a chance to test it as a teacher yet. Okay, go back to course home. So the next thing we're going to look at is groups. And again, to get to groups, I can go to Teacher Tools. I can go into the Edit Course and find groups there, but I've added it into the icon here. And groups are basically just that. I can do group if I want group assignments within D2L, rather than just saying, hey, putty up or whatever, we can actually create that within D2L itself. So I'm going to make a new category. And then I have some options here. I can do a number of groups with no auto enrollment, groups of number of groups, self-enrollment, things like that. Generally speaking, I like my, what I found is it's better to make the groups yourself and force it out. The kids sometimes struggle with the self-enrollment piece and it can get a little wonky. So if you just kind of set the groups up ahead of time, that's probably the better way to go, rather than self-enrollment. So I'm going to start with a number of groups with no auto enrollments. And let's say I want 5 groups in my class. You can put a prefix in if you want. It doesn't matter. And I'm going to tell it that I want to set up a discussion area so I can actually have discussions attached to the groups. And they can use that as a method of communication. And only that you as the teacher can see that discussion, and they'll be able to see the discussion as group members, but nobody else will be able to see it. So their other classmates can't. And you can create a new forum. So forum and discussions is kind of like the overarching category. So maybe I would make a new one called, just call it groups, with a new topic in it. And I can also set up a Dropbox right here as well. Okay, I can go tweak this afterwards, but I probably want a file submission. And one of the nice things about the group work is that it will tie to all those group members. So they submit one thing to one Dropbox. When you assign, it's going to show that those 3 or 4 group members have all submitted. And when you mark it, it will populate those marks back to those individuals that are in that group. So it ties it together really nicely. So I'm creating the discussion topic. Now I'm creating the Dropbox, and again, I can add more information there as I need, or I can go back and tweak the Dropbox after the fact if I want. Just for the sake of time, I'm just going to go through. And that is all done. So now what I can see is I've got 5 groups here. No, it sets them all up. So you're going to see that each group will have a Dropbox. Once I get done here, I'll go back and we can look in the Dropbox area and see what that looks like. Sorry, make this chat a little bigger. So sorry, just jumping back to Noreen's comment here a little bit, asking about using a table. Yeah, if you're trying to organize things on a content page, a table is probably the best way if you want things side by side. I got into code. If you're familiar with code, I got into just basically making kind of my own template and then pasting it into the document using div tags and stuff. But that's pretty advanced. I wouldn't expect most people to have that. So a table is kind of the easiest way to try and organize a layout on an HTML page or like a content page. Okay, so now I have the groups. I can click into them and I can start enrolling users. So here's group 1. And I can just go through and say I want 5 of you in there. When I click into group 2, and one of the things that you may see or notice is that it's only giving me the people left who haven't been assigned to a group yet. The other nice thing about the grouping is once you've made them, if you want to keep the groups the same, you can, and we'll look at this when we go into the Dropbox, you don't have to make, if the group members are going to be the same, or you can always change your enrollment, you can reuse the groups, I guess is what I'm getting at. You don't have to go through this process every single time. We can just kind of change who's in the group. And we can apply it independently to new assignments and new, so I'll just dump everybody else into that last one. And you'll notice there's a little icon that comes up here that just shows me that person's now been enrolled. And there was a couple stragglers. Okay. I may have missed something on that. So when you do your search for people, just choose not enrolled. I think some of you might be in a couple groups. There we go. So yeah, so when you're going through, sorry, just click the advanced and check off that not enrolled. That way you're not doubling up on people. So now my groups are made. And if I go to the Dropbox area, I can see the group Dropbox. I can see there's only 5 Dropboxes there. So any of the students, any of the group members can submit to their group. Obviously nothing's in there right now, but any of the group members can submit. And as they do, that's going to pop up there. And as I evaluate it, all those group members can see that submission. Okay. Now, the other thing, now that I've built groups, and I'm going to just take a different assignment here that I'd already built. In an existing assignment, I should be able to add that group to it. So in the assignments, if I want that assignment to be to groups to be applied to it, I can do that now when I'm building the assignment from scratch as well. It doesn't have to be, again, I don't have to go through that group process every single time. So long as I've set those groups up in advance and I don't want the names to change. Oh, there we go. Sorry. Knew there was an easier way. That was special access. So just in the submission and completion, I can just make it a group assignment. It's the group training category. So now that's going to go and automatically distribute, again, those 5 drop boxes. Once I make this assignment, it would just make 5 drop boxes. It's going to be the same groups that are associated with it. And I can reuse those groups again. Now, the other piece that I will show you, and this is where some of the, I mean, like I said, the group tool is quite powerful. And I've used this with some classes where people are doing 2 sections at the same time. As many of you know, the copy functionality in between classes is existent, but not really user-friendly. So what we've done in some instances is actually combined 2 classes into one, and then they're using the group tool for kind of delivery. And I'm just going to show you an example of that. So I make a new news item, and this, you could do this for 2 classes, but maybe there's also just one group that you need a message to. So I've given a message here. This is, but I only want this to go to certain individuals. So now I'm going to add, or to certain groups, I guess. It wouldn't be individuals in this instance. Oops. So now I'm going to go to a release condition, and I'm going to create and attach. So the condition is going to be group enrollment, and then I can select the group. So maybe group 1 is part of it. And I'm going to make another one. And group 4 is part of it. Now in this instance, because I have 2 conditions, I need to make sure that I change this all conditions to any. Because right now they'd have to be members of both groups to actually see this news feed. But if I change this to any conditions must be met, and I publish that, the only students that are going to see that that news item will be those 2 groups that I selected. Everybody else won't. Right? So right now, half of you roughly would be able to see that if you went into that classroom, and half of you won't see that. And I can see that it was conditionally released. So that tells me that there is that condition on it. And I remember that I've gone back and associated it with groups. Now that type of functionality exists. I use the newsfeed as a quick, easy example. But you can also do that with assignments. You can do that with pretty much anything that there's a special condition or a release condition can be applied to. So discussions, assignments, quizzes, all of those types of things. You can use that group functionality for that if you want. Okay. That special access, you can also do individual students. Sometimes that's quicker and easier. But that's just kind of the kind of broad strokes, the power of the tool. Okay. Oh, you can see the teacher tool. I'll have to look at the setting. It wouldn't be anything you do. It can, that would be something on the administrative end. So I'll look at the background. I didn't think that you should be able to, but I'll look and see if I can tweak that a little bit so that it goes away completely. There may be a tool in there. I wonder if one of the links is something that the kids can see in the old, because I know in the old one, the kids could see part of it as well, because they had access to something. There's something in the edit course area. So I'm wondering if that's kind of cascading upwards. I'll take a look at that and see what I can do about that. Okay, next is quizzes. So a lot of you I know have already done quizzes, but there's a couple, and because I've talked with a lot of you about different things with the quizzes, but just kind of going over that, a couple key things that I think are really important. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time making it. So quiz 1, I'm not going to worry about a category. Add edit questions. So this is one spot where you need to make a couple decisions. If you've already made questions in your question library, you can access them from there if you've done that ahead of time. If you have a CSV file that has, this would be like multiple choice and things, questions, you can upload that as well. It is possible to import from the learning repository. Not many people use this, and I find the learning repository to be really clunky. For quizzes, it's okay, but if you want kind of a group of area or an area where you have a bulk of questions, I would highly recommend using the question library. So we're going to add, and then a section is just that, right? So this might be my multiple choice. And now within that section, I can add questions. Now the question pool, if I've built questions in the library ahead of time, I can use the question pool functionality. And I apologize, I didn't have a chance to, it was my plan this morning, but things got crazy, was to put 20 or so questions in. I could do a question pool, and basically what that allows me to do is to associate it with that library. Right now, it's probably not going to see anything. Let's see. I can give it a title. Maybe I did an old one. Might be able to access. I'm not sure. And I can choose the number of questions I want it to grab. Say 1 point. And if I have a bunch of questions in my library, oh, I did have some there. It automatically brings in all 13 questions, but it's going to randomize the ones that the kids get. So of the 13, it's going to distribute 10 to them. Okay. This obviously only works in kind of binary things as well, I believe. Your multiple choice and your fill in the could be fill in the blank, I guess, and whatnot. But generally speaking, when we're doing our tests, we want to do, especially when we're just starting to build our stuff, just regular questions. Whenever I do my quizzes, I always make the answer the very first one. And then I just randomize the order. Okay? That way it's a nice system for me. I'm not trying to figure out, did I do A, B, C, D to distribute that? I just let the computer do that for me, the number of points, and save. For a short answer question or a fill in the blank? Yes, it should be, or it used to be. I haven't played. The quiz tool's new. They revamped it this year. And to be honest with you, I haven't had a whole lot of time to play with it. Yeah, so for the fill in the blank, that's the text. So same idea. So I can go Mike, click add answer, Michael, and make it case insensitive, things like that. So if you knew there were common spelling things or whatever, you could you know, kind of put those in there if you wanted. You always have the ability to go in and manually override the autocorrect or the auto check. So generally speaking, I would, if I had fill in the blank on a test, I would do that anyway. Or I would make sure that I always did that, just in case, even if I gave the kids a word bank to copy and paste from. For some reason, they didn't always do that. So I wanted to make sure that if they were close on their spelling, I would still give it to them. Okay, so that's the first tab, add edit questions. You can choose the different formats, things like that. And, you know, kind of compile your questions into your quiz. The next section is restrictions. And right off the bat, I would always unhide it from the users because I'm going to give it an availability date. Okay, so by deselecting that, they can see that there's a quiz coming up, and they'll be able to see the quiz if they click on the quiz tool, but they won't be able to start it. It'll basically say it hasn't opened up yet for them. So if you deselect that, which I do recommend you do, otherwise I find that I would forget and tell the kids that they had it this day and then they couldn't see it at all and whatever. So I deselect that, but then just give it the start date that you want, that you know they're going to have it. So, you know, at 9 o'clock on the 4th is when it's going to start. And if they have a set time limit to finish it, we give the end date. And that opens and closes the quiz. Like I said, they're going to be able to see it there, but they have to be, the only times they can access it is between 9 o'clock and 9:30. Well, make sure your dates are the same on the 4th. Okay. Release conditions, again, you can attach release conditions. For tech, I know they had to have access to content. So I would go create and attach, and I would have them do, and it can be on anything. Like sometimes you might say they have to get a certain grade on an assessment before they can even access the quiz. But I would say that they had to visit all the content topics. And then you can, once some more content gets built, you can tie that back to certain units. And once they've completed that, then the quiz opens up for them. And if you do that, you can get rid of the availability date as well. Or sometimes you might tie it in together. Okay, there is time limits that you can set. It defaults to 2 hours. You can change that if you need, or you can just take it off. You can show a clock just to really amp up the nerves so they see that countdown and start getting really sketchy as it gets close to being finished. And then if you have a kid who's away during that time that was released and whatnot, you can use the add user special access. So I can go in, give this person a different start date and end date, and then I just check, right? So Ashley and Ben were away the day of the test. It was supposed to be on the 4th, so I'm going to make it on the 5th for them, same times, and I just add them to special access. And I'll be able to see that down here. So now they're back that day on, or they're, depending whether they're probably not in your classroom, at home or whatever. So now they can access that at this time. So that's the restriction tab. The assessment tab, this is the actual evaluation. So you can set it to be graded immediately on completion. If you have it auto-graded, or sorry, a lot of binary things, so multiple choice, true, false, things like that, this is a good way to go, and then you don't have to really go in and mark it. If you have areas where the student, there's going to be long answer and things like that where you're going in to mark it, I probably would deselect that. And the reason for that is as soon as I select that, it's going to give the students their grade. And anything it can't kind of mark on its own independently, it just assigns a 0 to. So I know in the past when I've done this, you know, the students complete a history test, there was 30 multiple choice, but then 50 marks were short answer and definition and stuff. They got a pop-up that said, hey, you got, you know, like 15 out of 75, and they're freaking out. And, you know, I always had to kind of placate them and say, no, there's like 50 marks out there yet that I have to go in and mark. So it's really up to you. It depends on the type of test, whether you want them to see this right away or not. Okay. Grade item. So if you want it to go to your grade book, you're going to add a grade item here, and then it will go to the grade book in D2L. You probably should. I'd recommend adding grade items to everything. If it's auto-graded and you have a grade item, then you can automatically export to grades. If you don't select this, when you're grading or when you go into the quiz, and I'll try and find one here after to show you, but there is a export to gradebook button. So you can manually send the marks over to the gradebook once you're done kind of going through it and grading, and then it's going to appear in that grades tool for the kids to see how they did. Okay. You can set the number of attempts. So again, depends on the quiz. Most of you are probably 1. Again, when I did tech, I would make the attempts unlimited, but I also put a condition that they had to get 100% on it before they could go to anything else or before they could access the next unit. So that's really, again, just based on your purpose. And then the grade calculation. So if you're giving multiple attempts, you know, maybe you're going to say it's the highest, or again, I would always do the first attempt And so again, when they were challenging safety tests, the first mark counted. That's what I went into the grade book, but I needed to see them complete 100% test to safety off on something. And then lastly, and this is the big one, this is a question a lot of people have asked about, is the submission view. And I will apologize right now, it makes no sense to me, but the default view is like D2L's default and we can't change it. So I've been in to see if I could do it at a min level. I've talked to D2L and there's nothing that we can do to change this. And by default, it doesn't show questions. It doesn't give them really any feedback other than the score if you've released that and to say that you're done the test. So every time you make a quiz, if you want them to see how, kind of where they went right, where they went wrong, you need to toggle this default view. And it doesn't save. And I apologize for that. It seems ridiculous to me, but it's the limitation. It's their design. And they said it's integrated too deeply for them it would be a massive change for them. So I personally find most teachers do want the students to see the questions. Maybe they want to see them all, or maybe they just want to show them the ones that were answered incorrectly. Okay. And maybe they want to show what the right answer was. Okay? Obviously, again, these are going to be your multiple choice, fill in the blank, things like that. To me, this is a more logical scheme to have, or at least to be able to save for the kids to see. But it is something that you have to configure every time. Okay. And we can save that. So now once students have finished the test, so I'm going to close this one. The report setup, don't really worry about reports. That's kind of something secondary. You can do the same information you can provide for the students as you do with that submission view. It just kind of differentiates how they're going to see it or where they're going to see it, but it's essentially the same type of information. So I'm going to go into one that's already been completed. And I'm going to grade it. So to actually go in and manually do the quiz, I need to go to the quiz, the drop down, and grade. This one probably already did an auto export to the grades book. If you haven't set that up, you'd see a button right here that says export to grades when things are done. Okay. Sorry, I'm going to go in as Ben for a second. Just so you can see what that, hopefully see what that looks like for the students. So for them to see it, they have to go to quizzes. Click into their quiz. Whoop, sorry, not. And click submissions. Their first attempt. It's a lot of clicks to get here. Okay, but they're going to see, I got it right. If this was wrong, if I selected Alcatraz, there'd be an arrow here indicating that's right. And if you'd put feedback in, they click on that and that pops up for them. So that's kind of the student view and how they get to it. All right, assignments. I'm assuming that most of you have kind of figured out assignments, and we're running tight on time here. The one thing that I will maybe quickly show you that I found really useful, and I do use Google a lot. I've kind of become a bit of a Google convert just for some functionality, for a lot of the share functionality in it. If I have a worksheet and I'm just going to randomly pick a document. This isn't going to be a worksheet. But let's say I have a worksheet that I want every kid to get a copy of. And that's definitely one of the, the benefits of Google Classroom is that give every kid their copy. We can do the same thing in an assignment. So I'm just going to randomly pick something here. So I'm going to open the document. Let's, for just argument's sake right now, pretend this is a worksheet, please. I'm going to click share. It's fine if it's only KPR. If you're working with Inboard, you can change that to anybody with the link if you want. But I'm going to copy the link. And now I'm going to make a new assignment. And Dropbox and assignment are interchangeable words in D2L. So if you see it called assignment or you see Dropbox, it's the exact same thing. They kind of started rebranding last year, but they haven't put it out, haven't changed it in all the areas. So I'm making a new folder. Just call it worksheet. Make it out of 10. It's going to go to grades. It's due Friday. I can write my instructions in here. And now rather than attaching a file from Google Drive, I'm going to attach that link. So I just paste the link in, and then this is the one spot. Everything after this slash, I'm going to delete. So view and then up to sharing. And I'm going to type in copy instead. So now when the students click on it, doesn't matter if I'm a student or a teacher or whatever at this point, when they click into the assignment and they see this link here and they go to click on it, it should bring up a file. Not sure, I haven't seen that one before. Not sure if Google's broken right now, or maybe I'm trying to see if I'm logged into my account. Anyway, when it's working, when they click on this, it will prompt them to make their own copy in their Google Drive. And so they now have an independent file that they can work on, they can edit. It's not changing your master copy, and then they can submit that afterwards. Let me try that one more time. So they changed on the address. Let's try that again. It does work. I've done it a lot. I'm going to change that quickly. Try that one. Extra slash, I have one there. Huh, weird. It does work. I don't know if that's just busted for now. There is a video that I know works because it demonstrates it in that I've attached to the So Darren posted in the chat a link to a file. There it is. And so anyway, you end up with this, right? So they can make a copy and then they can work on their own. So it's just a quick, handy, easy little way of giving kids independent worksheets without having them to have to make their own copies. Video tools, I will quickly go over. I know it's 2 o'clock, so if you need to leave, by all means, feel free to jump out. This is a pretty quick, easy one. There's kind of 2 things integrated into D2L. So there is a virtual classroom here. And so this is it's part of D2L. It's powered by Bongo, but it is integrated. Only people from your class can access it. It doesn't have the functionality of kind of a Google Meet and WebEx in terms of breakout rooms and things like that, but it does have a whiteboard. You can do a screen share, things like that. It's a quick, easy way of meeting up with the kids in your class sometimes if you don't want to set up a completely separate meet. And when you make a link in here, it will post it into your calendar and you can add it into content and things like that. So I'm just here. I can schedule a meeting. I can say I want to meet now. I can record it, publish it, things like that. Invite the entire class or invite individual people. If you just want to get a link to give to individuals. It does cap at 50, which is better. That was new. They just changed that at the end of the summer, because it used to kind of crap out at about 15. So the students would get the same thing. They can just click the link off their calendar. And again, I can see who's here. There's a chat pod, polling, does have closed captioning. I can use a presentation, and that's pretty much it. So it is a little, there is a whiteboard here as well that multiple people can access. So they could all go on at the same time. So it has kind of the basics for sure. The breakout rooms would definitely be one of the pieces that it does not have. I know somebody had asked that on their questions. Okay, and then the last piece that I want to talk about is just the video note. So if you want to record video to put into content, the easiest way is to just create new, an HTML document. And I hate the name of this. And if you've been in a session with me before, I've said, I wish they called this dynamic note, because I think some people get scared away with HTML. I'll probably, in terms of the training classroom, I'll leave that on for like another month or so. I'll probably change you guys to maybe professional learners or teachers or something, and I'll just make another class for other things that I'm doing. So everything I'm doing, there is links in the content to videos or documentation for that. Anyway, so HTML document. And then we can add a link. Just need to find the right. Might be insert stuff, sorry. I always get the two mixed up. Insert stuff and add a video note. So I can make a recording. It's going to grab my webcam right off the get-go, and it's kind of simplistic. This is as elaborate as it gets. I can't, kind of multitask with a presentation or something. So for something like that, you might want to do a recording through WebEx or through Meet and record it if you want to do more of a screen share type thing. at this point. But if it's just me talking, it's a little introduction. Hey, I'm Mike Sherwin. I'm going to be your teacher this year. You know, it's kind of puts your face to the course a little bit. It's just new recording. It will record, you stop it, and then next and bring it in, and it's going to insert it right into the document and embed it there. Okay, so it's if you do, you know, a little bit of lecturing, or more introductory, or just kind of that touch point with the kids, if you want personalized, it's a pretty good, quick, easy way of doing it. And as I said, I'm in the content area right now, but anywhere you have insert stuff, you can do that. So I've done it in my directly in my news feeds a few times over the semester, where especially if I'm handing things back virtually, and I was e-learning, so it wasn't synchronous, but just kind of those general, hey, I marked all these assignments and here are the general things that I found. Just so it was kind of that face to screen, I guess, interaction with the kids at the time. Okay, and bringing it all together. So one of the things that somebody had mentioned was, how do I make everything kind of bring everything together and pull everything all into one? And there are two places you could do this. This is all about building individual things, really. The two places you could do it, one would be the news feed. So on here, and I used to use the news feed kind of as my daily, that was kind of the daily lesson plan. That's like, hey, this is what we're doing today. And I would just put the links into the different items from there. Right? So from news, if I did a new item, and from here, I can quick link to all the stuff I've built. So to my Dropbox, to a discussion, to a quiz, those types of things. And obviously I'd build that around some text or a list or things like that, kind of the to-do things, but they can access it directly from the news feed on a daily basis. The other spot is coursework. And there's two ways of doing it here. One is under each unit folder, same idea, just add existing, and I can add in the individual components of everything that that I've built that I want to see. So I have, you know, maybe I did my notes. I had an HTML document that I did as a note first, and then there was a discussion and an assignment attached to that, and then they had a quiz that they had to do. And those would all be individual items under here. The other way is this HTML document. So maybe I have an HTML document where this is the day's lesson. I can type in my content. Maybe I have a link to a YouTube video, right? I can use insert stuff to put in a YouTube video. And then I can, again, I can link to anything that I've already built. So within that, the Dropbox is linked there. Maybe the quiz is linked in there, things like that. And then it's all on one page for them to scroll through and complete. And it's really about what is comfortable for you and for the kids. If it's something short and sweet, I would say probably embed everything into an HTML document. The problem that I find is sometimes it can be overwhelming if there's too many things into there in that one spot. And in that instance, you're better to kind of divide it out a little bit in those unit or lesson folders in coursework. And then the kids can kind of check off one thing at a time. And it's a little bit more of a linear way of them to see things, right? They kind of know, okay, I did this, and I can go down to the next. Okay, I've done that, I can go down to the next. So that's probably my personal preference of how to do it. But it's really, again, you finding kind of your own pacing with things. Okay, that is 10 after 2. I don't want to, I know everybody's time is valuable. I don't want to take things up too long, but if you have, oh, rubrics. Yeah, rubric information from one course to another. So I'll quickly go over the copy. So yeah, you've always been able to copy rubrics and stuff over. So just quickly, so teacher tools, edit course, and I'm going to go to import, export components. So if you have a course you've taught before, you can access any of the material that you've built, and that's Dropboxes, discussions, content, any of that, and bring it into a current course. If it's something somebody else is lending you, they need to add you as a teacher to their course, and then you'll have this functionality as well. So I'm just going to go with the default, and I need to search for a course offering. Trying to think of a course that I've taught. All right, so last year, this was my writer's class, or writer's craft class last year. So I search for that, I select it. And now, rather than copying everything, I just want to select components. If you want a complete mirror of the course, you just select copy components and it will bring everything, but it does bring the news feed over as well, which depending on how you have your course set up, you may or may not want to be brought over. Sorry, things are a little slow. Suspect there's a lot of people moving course material right now. So when this pops up, we are going to get a list of every item that's in that course. So Dropbox, newsfeed, discussions, quizzes, nav bars, homepage, rubrics, all of that. I can pick and choose what I want, and I can either do it by category. Maybe I want all the rubrics, or I can even drill down and select specific rubrics within that course, or specific drop boxes or things like that. The other nice functionality with this that's really nice if you're going from course to course is you can actually move it ahead by a certain date. So all the due dates that were assigned, you can kind of automatically move it, 6 months. And you can do it by the start date of the course as well. So if you know when the previous one had started, and then you pick your start date of the current course you're teaching, it automatically adjusts all those due dates. So it will be the same pacing. Not necessarily going to be an exact match, but it's going to be pretty close, or should be relatively close for you to go and tweak rather than have to go through and do everything all at once. So I apologize, D2L's, I'm guessing, just really bogged down right now. But that is that process you would do for copying a rubric from one course to another. Any other questions before we get going? We're gonna have to put in the chat box. For some reason, my headphones still don't appear to be working.